Hi, all. My name is Lynn Barrett, President of the Board of Vermont Independent Media. Hey, Karen.
Hello.
The publisher of the Commons newspaper. Tonight event is sponsored by VIM, VIM's media mentoring program. Our mission is to educate the public about how to get their voice heard. And it looks like we have a terrific group tonight to hear more about public relations and social media influencer marketing. You've probably heard of influencer marketing, but what do you really know about it? Our expert panel will discuss the ins and outs of marketing, but what do you really know? Our expert panel will discuss the ins and outs of what it means to work with public relations professionals and micro influencers, and how influencer marketing can help you build awareness for your business, your event, your nonprofit, your town, state, etc. For those of us in the business, there's really nothing new under the sun in terms of influencer marketing. Actually, it dates back to the medieval ages with fictional characters, celebrities on television ads, radio, reality shows, social media, etc. Some of you can remember some of these faces and programs. At this point, today, businesses, including tourism, are really embracing influencer marketing, even here in Vermont. We'll be using mostly examples that relate to tourism, food, the arts, events, nonprofit, etc. And utilizing, we're not talking about working with celebrities as much as we're talking about working with micro influencers. And you will hear more about that shortly. Let me now introduce our moderator, Joyce Marcel, award-winning journalist for Vermont Business Magazine, and now also for the Commons. And she will introduce our panel of experts.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is going to be a very interesting talk, I think. Certainly for me, it will. So right into it. Rosalie Hagel Martin is a 25-year public relations industry professional. Excuse me, I have to read this. Whose experience spans a variety of industries and disciplines, from tourism and hospitality to health and wellness, food and beverage, entertainment, education, financial service, and philanthropy. Rosalie has spent her career on the fast-paced agency side of PR, working for boutique firms and two of the industry's leading independent agencies before founding Blue Whale Public Relations in 2017. She has proudly served as the AOR, whatever that is, for Love Brattleboro, Vermont since 2021. Sorry, but what is AOR, Rosalie?
Agency of record.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for being here.
You're welcome.
I'm a journalist. This is not my field.
No problem.
Erin Torres is a Vermont blogger, writer, and realtor who started the popular website Travel Like a Local, Vermont, in 2015 as a resource for Vermonters and travelers to the state to find local recommendations. Erin is passionate about highlighting adventures, new experiences, things to see and do throughout the state. We also have with us her sister, Colleen Blair, the Boston-based blogger and content creator behind Travel Like a Local Mass, which focuses on travel across Massachusetts and New England. A trusted source for those living in and visiting the region, she covers destinations, hotels, and restaurants, as well as cultural attractions, outdoor adventures, events, and local businesses, all from the perspective of a local resident. And we have Brattleboro's own Greg Lesh, who has served as the executive director of the Brattleboro Area Chamber of Commerce for the past 2 years, but his tenure goes back 20. Through the chamber, he engages with the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance in a joint venture of the Community Marketing Initiative, a dynamic program promoting Greater Brattleboro as a destination, Brattleboro's Tourism Marketing Initiative. Okay, that tells you who we're going to be hearing from. And we're going to start off with Greg. Can you be more specific? Maybe you and Rosalie can discuss Brattleboro's campaign to promote the town.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joyce. As some of you may know, tourism in Vermont is a $3 billion industry, and it supports some 30,000 jobs, which is over 10% of the workforce in the state. So it's very important in Brattleboro. Tourism is a very important piece of it. And to my knowledge, there has never been any sort of formal ongoing marketing plan done in Brattleboro. And the Community Marketing Initiative, now known as CMI, was born really out of a disgruntled business community who were unhappy with a local options tax that had been adopted. And someone from the community said, why don't we take a percentage of the meals and rooms tax, which is generally generated by tourists anyway, why don't we take 10% of that 1% local option tax, reinvest it in the community, and do some formal marketing? It was then handed off to the Brattleboro Chamber and the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance, who seemed like the logical partners to take this on. And with the first pot of money that we got, we worked with Panelists project and developed the Love Brattleboro VT, hashtag Love Brattleboro VT, with all the imagery that came along with that. And with the second go round, we decided to expand our horizons. I mean, I thought originally we would take money and do a lot of placement in periodicals and that kind of thing. And then, of course, we realized how expensive that is to do. And so we put out an RFP. And Rosalie from Blue Whale Public Relations, her proposal was used largely influencer marketing, which I was really not all that familiar with. It was something I had never done before. But based on the proposal, it seemed like the best bang for our buck. And it was the idea of using this third-party influencers to experience Brattleboro was very attractive. And so Rosalie was brought on. And we went from there. And I think so far it's been very successful.
Okay. Before we go on, I did forget to say that we welcome questions. We would love questions. You can put them in the chat. I'm reading the chat all the time as we speak. Or I guess you could yell. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to get that out there. So Rosalie, how do we know it's been successful?
Yeah, so we're going into our third year, I want to say, supporting Brattleboro and with this campaign. And I think what we have seen year over year since we started is that we have a story that within the destination and what we have to offer that both press and influencers are really interested in, because it is sort of an undiscovered gem is what we found when we first started, and we're still being received that way. It's a story that we can tell in a lot of different ways through the press and through social influencers, and we continue to see both from regional and local press to national press, how Brattleboro has captured the attention of both travel writers and influencers. So we're not seeing any slowdown, I guess, in interest. Where our coverage is in the multi-millions year over year, and that represents readership and audience and unique visitors per month on websites and the followers of influencers that come and visit. And so all combined, there are an awful lot of interested travelers out there looking for new places to go, and their eyeballs are finding Brattleboro through the different articles and social media that is being pushed out and that's influencing their decisions. That's why we call them influencers. And I would like to say too, when we talk about influencers, I think for the purposes of this conversation, I think it's both the social media influencer and the travel writer, the editor, the press, because they serve as a third-party influencer as well.
So is there data? Are there numbers? Or is it just we've been in this many newspapers, or how do you tell?
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things about PR. It's not a direct sales mechanism, if you will, but it is part of the overall, what you could say, sales and marketing mix. So there's the direct sales channel, which is your whether it's online or whether it's a salesperson, register, capturing sales. And the purpose of PR, maybe I should start there, is to really create a foundation of awareness so that those direct sales mechanisms take hold and take effect. So when someone is ready to book a hotel, if they've seen it, read it, heard about it, etc., in other channels, that will help prompt the decision to choose Brattleboro over another destination. But you're right. That's the hard thing to be able to really correlate. So what we do measure is the reach, the impressions, the message. Is the message getting through as we try to put it out there? And then when you look at all of that together against the typical budget for a PR program versus, say, an advertising campaign, the value back is so much greater, because it's a super efficient way of reaching tons of people with, as Greg mentioned, the kind of the ultimate brass ring, if you will, is the third-party endorsement piece, which is someone else talking good about you versus you paying an ad that talks great about yourself. That's the real value. So how do you put a price on that? I don't, that's the question mark we all trying to solve for every day in what I do.
Well, I used to be a travel writer, and I remember fondly the FAM tour.
Yes.
I took many.
Very good.
The trying to sell stories to the newspapers afterwards, which was not quite as much fun.
Right.
So how could you be more specific about what you've been selling in Brattleboro? Because when I hear we're making Brattleboro a tourist town, I think of the panhandlers, the dead bodies on the street, the murder. And I'm wondering, what are you talking about?
Right. There, like I said before, it's a real undiscovered gem. I think what we have found, the media seems to resonate with them. And, when we bring Colleen and Aaron into the conversation, I'd love to hear what they have to say too, is I think most people that have never been to Vermont, even if they've not traveled here, they associate it with ski and snow and winter and maybe fall foliage. And that's probably all they really know. So then we come out with our stories about arts and culture and food and farm to table and this amazing mix of experiences that, with the charm of a small town, with the charm of a Vermont town, New England town. And I think that's the appeal that we're finding. Now you add to that the fact that it's within such easy access to major markets like a Boston, New York, and Albany. I mean, you've now got a really great recipe for success in terms of getting the media's attention. And the media love media influencers, they love to feel that they've discovered something new. And we still have the shine of newness when we go out and we talk to the media about it. People, it's not like a destination. Oh yeah, New York. Okay, yeah, New York will always be New York. You know what I mean? But what's this over here? Brattleboro, I've never heard about it, I've never seen it. Tell me about it. So there's a desire to want to cover it.
So are you sending out press releases? Is that what you're talking about?
We don't do as many press releases as we once did back in the day. We do a lot more targeted pitches. So we really try to find writers that kind of write in the space that we have something to offer them. So they write a lot about arts culture. They write a lot about, let's say, family travel during that time of year or food, et cetera. And we really try to target them with something that that they can really own and do something, unique within the coverage. So we do some seasonal releases, what to do in the spring, what to do in the summer, some general food releases we've done. But for the most part, the day-to-day is all very targeted outreach.
To writers?
To writers and to influencers.
Okay, yes. Got it.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a clearer picture now.
Yeah.
What we're talking about. Did you have something you wanted to show us? Would this be a good time?
Is this a good time to show it? Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when you want
So what you're going to see is basically a recap reel that we did. It's about 2 minutes, and it's really a kind of a quick pace of results from 2022, 2023. So there's some numbers in there. There's some screenshots of some of the coverage we've secured, of some of the social media and influencers that have visited and what they've produced from our efforts.
Okay, I think we've got all of it together. I'm not sure I was correct in doing that, but we have Erin and Colleen are also part of that. But before we get to them, can I just ask Greg one question?
Sure.
Okay, sitting in the office, are you seeing more tourists who come in and ask questions of you, like directions or guides, because they've seen some of this publicity somewhere?
I can't draw a direct correlation. No, I get a lot of tourists in my office, and this time of year it picks up very quickly, and it's a steady flow of people coming into the office looking for things to do, looking for restaurants, the whole bit. Can I say it's directly related to what the community marketing initiative is doing? No, I can't. But I think you can extrapolate a little bit and say, as our numbers on social media are going up and doing really well, I think it suggests that we're making inroads.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, now I think we need to talk to Erin and Colleen. And I guess my first question is, what the hell does the word influencer mean?
It's a really good question, Joyce. So I think when I think about an influencer, it's someone who is sharing a recommendation and someone who has experienced whatever that recommendation is, and someone who can give that third-party endorsement. So I went to a restaurant, I went to a new yoga studio, I went to a bar, whatever it might be, and I'm so excited to share my recommendations. So an influencer is someone who on social media, that's typically Facebook, influencer, now TikTok is really popular, is someone who's out there and giving those third-party endorsements to say, you should go here. And often we create communities based on similar interests and things that we enjoy. So I started Travel Like a Local Vermont back in 2015. I, at the time, was living in Middlebury, and I was traveling all around the state every weekend. And I was highlighting hidden gems and things that I would see in my travels, my new favorite IPA that came out or whatever else. And it really gave me the ability to go ahead and showcase more of what Vermont has to offer. So for me, I started a blog, and then I went to Instagram. And on Instagram, I started highlighting more of those recommendations as well. So an influencer is really someone who's giving local recommendations and that third-party endorsement.
Yeah, but at some point there has to be money changing hands here.
Not always. It can also be, and we'll go into, we have some slides to share. It can be barter, it can be trade. When I started influencing, I was traveling all around the state and I wanted some hotel stays. And I would approach hotels or B&Bs or inns, and I would say, hey, I would love to come and feature you in a blog post and share photos on social media. Can we do a barter where I essentially get a free night? You perhaps didn't sell that room, or you hadn't sold that room. So for you, it's no lost money, and you're not actually, giving me anything. You're just giving me a room to stay in order to be able to feature you and take photos of your delicious breakfast and the area to highlight as well. And we'll go into the different types of influencing as well in the slides that we prepared.
Okay, when do you want to do the slides? Is that now or?
You can jump in right now. I can go ahead and share my screen, and Colleen and I can walk through those slides. We're going to give a lot of examples of different types of influencing. And then Joyce, we can do more questions and Q&A with everyone else when we're at the end of those slides, if that works.
Okay, I think Colleen just say something so we get a picture of you on the screen.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Yes, I'm here as well. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
All right. So we thought that we would kick it off with influencer marketing best practices. And we're going to do introductions first. So Colleen is going to introduce how she got started with Travel Like a Local Massachusetts.
Yeah, so like Joyce had said earlier, I am based in Boston, although I do cover sort of all of New England, including Vermont, and did have a chance to come and work with Rosalie and Greg and visit Brattleboro just about a year ago now. So I started doing this in 2019, sort of, I guess, focused on Massachusetts at the time, but really expanded through then. I've always enjoyed traveling locally throughout New England and promoting small businesses and trying to kind of find some of those hidden gems, as Rosalie had alluded to share and sort of share about my experiences. And so this was a way for me to do that and kind of have a bit of a creative outlet through photography and video, while also sharing with people and my community all about the great things that there are to do in Massachusetts and New England.
We get the question quite a bit, what do influencers post? And you can see a snapshot here. These are some of the most recent reels, which are essentially short video clips on Instagram, as well as posts. And there's a castle here in the Northeast Kingdom that I featured. There's Queen Connie, who, if you've passed through Leicester, Vermont, you've seen her on Route 7 right there, holding up the Volkswagen Bug. the Old Mill in Jericho, all over the state, the Woodstock Inn, things that we highlight, things that we enjoy, and recommendations that we're making to our followers. So we're going to get into a few different types of how you actually work with influencers if you want to start going down this route of really cost-effective marketing, where it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. I think that's important to say when it comes to giveaways, when it comes to barter and trade, which Colleen will go into a bit more. Those don't have to be the exchange of money, as Joyce said. It could be, I'm going to give away a product, for instance. Every once in a while, people will say to me, hey, can I send you a box of my product? Or around the holidays, Colleen and I typically do 12 days of the holidays, where essentially we'll partner with different businesses and we'll highlight their products, food products, their beverages, whatever it might be. Colin, do you want to talk about the 3 different options here and ways to really get started working with influencers?
Sure. So I think, 3 of the most basic ways, like Erin said, are to host a giveaway. And, in a lot of cases, this is, it could be a product, it could be a hotel stay, it could be, a gift card to a restaurant or an invitation to an event. There are a lot of different ways to do this. And typically in the case of doing a giveaway, it's something where, you might give one to the influencer so they can have the experience themselves, go to your restaurant or stay at your inn or go to your museum and have that experience that they then share with their audience and give away to someone else as a way to kind of raise awareness. Barter and trade is typically when you work, exactly like it sounds, when you work with a brand on a trade basis. So like Erin had mentioned before, I might stay at a hotel, they might give me a room at no cost, and in exchange, I provide promotion on my Instagram page, a blog post. Sometimes it'll include assets like photography or videos that they can use on their own marketing channels. So there are sort of different deliverables that you can negotiate with a barter and trade arrangement. And then, of course, probably the most straightforward is paid social engagement. And typically, I'd say the paid opportunities do come with larger brands. So, brands will set aside a budget to pay influencers for very specific deliverables. And in the case of paid opportunities, typically there's a contract, it's a little bit more formalized. But all 3 of these things are ways that Erin and I work with businesses throughout New England.
And one other thing on the paid social engagements is you can also offer or ask someone, hey, you have a really popular blog in Vermont, what's your rate to actually write about me? So I've done that a bit in the past too, where it's a different way of essentially saying, hey, come and profile me essentially, and I'll pay you for promotion on your website. So we're going to go ahead and share some examples here. Colin, do you want to talk about how the giveaways do work on Instagram and how typically you've made those quite successful?
Yeah, so typically, like I said, it could include a bundle of products, a night's stay, a restaurant visit. And generally with giveaways, there's 3 things that you want. You want to ask that participants follow both pages. So if, say, I was doing a giveaway with Love Brattleboro VT, one of the things that people would have to do to sign up would be to like both of our Instagram pages. Then typically we might ask them to tag 1 friend, 2 friends, 3 friends, and that's just a way to raise more awareness and get other people to share it and get their friends involved as well. And then we may also ask them to share the giveaway on their Instagram stories. And so this is just another way for them to share with their community and get more entrants. And it's a great way if you're looking to grow your page and gain more followers. This is a really great way to do that.
Great. So we're going to walk through some examples right now. This was a giveaway that I did with a local nursery. And essentially they gave me this $50 pot of herbs to give away. And as you can see here on the right, you can see the copy. I think we can share the slides with you all, but it gives instructions on how to enter it. And from this simple post, that $50 product that they gave me, that their hard cost was probably a few dollars, that they had grown these herbs and gotten the terracotta pot, they had gotten about 300 new likes on their social media channel through that $50. So when we talk about low cost giveaways, it doesn't have to be something that is expensive. It can be, a product that you have that you're creating buzz about. Here's another example.
And so this is one that I had worked on with the New England Botanic Garden here in Massachusetts. And this was an example of an experience. So they were having an event. It was this enchanted fairy garden installation at the garden, and it was a ticketed event. And so I worked with them to help promote it and give away a gift card so that other people could come and experience the event as well. And similarly, this was a very sort of low cost promotion, tickets to their event, a gift card, and it got more than 500 likes. I know they gained a bunch of followers. So it's just sort of another example of, it could be a hard product, but it could also be an experience that you're giving away. And then this was another example of a product. This is a local small business in Massachusetts. She hand makes these bags from recycled materials. And so I had worked with her to give away a product as well as a gift card to a place where I had taken some of the photography. So again, very successful, a great way for her to get the word out there about her products and also get in front of my audience and grow her following at the same time.
And the cool thing about the giveaway is it's for brand awareness. So more people becoming aware of your brand. As Rosalie said, when you suddenly hear of Tata Harper or Farmhouse Pottery, and you're like, oh, someone endorsed that who I respect or I know, you're more likely to actually stay at that hotel or purchase that product. This is a giveaway that Colleen and I did a few years ago now. But as you can see, we had 530 people enter. So we each got quite a few new followers from it. And we bought a mixture of Massachusetts and Vermont products for the giveaway that we collaborated on together as influencers. And then trade and barter, it's very straightforward. So we'll showcase how we've done this quite a bit. This was Harpoon Brewing. They had invited us to come and participate in one of their little huts that they have in the winter months. And they said, hey, we'll give you a gift card for $75, $100 if you want to come and check out one of the huts and feature us on social media. So we did just that.
This is a recent promotion that I had done for a hotel here in Boston. They were trying to promote their romance package around Valentine's Day. So I stayed with them, helped promote a contest that they were running on social media. And so this was a nice way for them to get some awareness about both locally in Boston, as well as to my followers elsewhere, to just sort of raise awareness about what they were doing and also have a chance to win a stay with them.
This was Renemac Maple. They had released some new products, their cocktail syrup and their bitters, and they had approached me and said, hey, can we send you a box essentially of our product that you can do whatever you want with? I think I gave some away, and then I also it was my 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. So as you can see here, I took the photos of the product. They're going to gain more followers and more awareness of this new product offering that they have as well by simply sending me some of their product.
This was another hotel collaboration that I had done in Kennebunkport in Maine. They were looking to promote their new Suite Life package. They had just renovated some of their suites. So we went up for a weekend, stayed at the inn, and this was a carousel of different photography, but worked with them to promote the new suites through Instagram stories, through an Instagram carousel post, had also done a reel, and then give them some photography as well that they could use on their social channels. So sort of a multifaceted campaign that I ran for them. And this was in exchange for a stay in one of their suites for a weekend. And this was over the winter when, they weren't very busy. So I would say from a tourism perspective, a lot of times we try to visit these spots in sort of the off season or shoulder season when, like Erin said before, we're not taking a room away from a paying guest. This may be a room that would have been vacant anyway. So the opportunity cost for the inn is fairly small, but they're still getting a lot of awareness and reach that's very targeted in on what they were trying to promote, which at the time was their new sweets and this new package.
And I think you made a good point, Colleen, when you were talking about the photos. So often when we do work with companies, right, and especially in paid promotions, they often ask us to send them their photos, because if they had to go out and hire a professional photographer and do a professional photo shoot, get the food styler, the product styler, whatever else, it's going to cost a lot of money. And often if we as influencers can be taking photos, they're pretty good photos for the most part. They're not professional, but that actually lends itself to a more genuine and authentic appeal where it doesn't look staged. It looks real. And that's what a lot of people, when they're actually deciding to go visit a new inn or deciding to use a new product, are looking for. They don't want the kind of, advertising, if they will. They want that recommendation from a friend, someone who they trust.
Yeah, it's locally, a lot of people refer to it, or it's called user-generated content, basically. So that's essentially what we can provide. Like Erin said, it's not necessarily a professional photo shoot, but it is user-generated content that they can then reuse on their marketing channels with authenticity.
I've also done campaigns with Mackenzie where they said, hey, I'll send you a package of meat. Who doesn't want a package of sausages in football season, right? So of course, I'm going to get it. I'm going to feature them. If I like the products, I always say, if people do want to send me products, I reserve the right not to necessarily feature them. And that's a risk that you might take as a brand. But more often than not, we do work, very closely in promoting the brands, because let's face it, especially in Vermont, there aren't any not great brands to be promoting. So for us, it's fun because it gives us the opportunity at no cost to try new things, promote new things, and develop new content to our followers as well. And this was a cool one. King Arthur had approached me a few years ago now about taking one of their baking classes. So I went down there and I wrote a blog post and posted on social media about the cooking class. And the cool thing is, this was a few years ago now, but I just posted, I want to say last week, about this experience once again. So I was recycling that content because I have more followers and different followers now, and they got a lot of love on that post. So often when you do work with content creators, we need things to be posting every single day. So we are going to be highlighting different brands and visits that we have throughout the year as a form of recycling our content as well. And this was one, Four Chimneys in Bennington, that I visited. The same thing. I was down there. I was doing a book signing at the time or something like that, and said, hey, I would love to stop in and feature you and feature the town for a night stay. So that was, again, a barter and trade relationship. You want to talk more about paid partnerships and how that works?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, paid partnerships are typically a little bit more formal in nature, but can consist of sort of the same things. Typically, you'll agree upon a certain rate in exchange for very specific deliverables. So deliverables could include anything from a carousel and stories on Instagram. It could be a Facebook post, a TikTok, a blog post, and there are a lot of different forms of deliverables. I've done some that are specifically for photography, like we'd mentioned before. If they don't want to, if a brand doesn't want to necessarily pay for a professional photo shoot, I've worked with brands to provide photography that they can then use on their social media, in their email marketing, on their website. I've also done paid promotions where I've written a blog post on my blog, or I've also done guest promotion or guest blogging for their blog. So I'll write a post that's from my point of view that I then deliver to them, and they can post on their blog. So those are just some of the types of examples of paid partnerships that you can sort of think about.
And we're going to give a few examples. So KM is based now in Massachusetts. It started with Mackenzie in Vermont, and they are promoting their hot dogs, their bacon, now sausages all over New England. And we both are paid influencers through them. It was kind of cool when we first started. We were both bacon influencers, and we would get these massive boxes of bacon that would show up at our house. And that happened with hot dogs also. So for quite some time, we had just freezers full of hot dogs and bacon from being an influencer. So we would get products that they would send us, and then also they would pay us for the promotions. But this is one where seasonally, around football season, they do a lot of promotions, but it's really geared towards, they take our photos and they want that third party endorsement as well. And here's one that I did actually just this winter for a long trail. So they approached me and said, we want to do an après ski campaign. Will you go ahead, and if we send you some products, if we send you a hat, will you take some photos of you enjoying the beer outside? And I said, of course. I love craft beer. So that was another fun paid promotion where they sent me the product. I took photos, and then we actually collaborated on this on Instagram. So you can essentially do something now where two Instagram handles, two accounts come together and they both host the content on both of the pages. And that helps with getting just more traction, more impressions on the content that we develop from their account and from my account as well. So in that case, it helps me too, because people who are long trail followers are now seeing my content as well.
And this is a collaboration that I had done with Papagino's. This was an interesting collaboration because it was a paid partnership, but it was ongoing. It was a year-long partnership. And that's something that I think is worth mentioning with influencers and some of these, types of relationships. A lot of times we'll be approached to do sort of one-off partnerships where, it may be a one-time thing. You get a box of products or, you go to a restaurant one time. But one of the things that I've really found is that working with brands or businesses consistently, I think adds additional value because you're showing sort of an authentic affinity for that product. So I worked with Papagino's doing a post a month for about a year. And I think, it worked really well because, my followers could see that I had an authentic appreciation for that product, that I did actually eat at Papagino's. It wasn't just a one-off thing, but it was something that I was doing regularly. I think for people who grew up in Massachusetts or New England, Papagino's was sort of the place where you would go after Little League games, or have your birthday parties, and there was a lot of nostalgia with the brand. So tried to kind of dig into that while also promoting their different product offerings. But, people sort of knew like, oh, well, you love Papagino's, it must be good. And that's another great way of sort of giving that authentic endorsement that we've been talking about, but on a very sort of consistent and ongoing basis.
Dunkin' is another brand who I've been influencing with now for a few years. Same thing. They just want to see authentic photos of people out enjoying their products. So this was a paid promotion where all I had to do largely was go outside and take a picture of me enjoying iced coffee in the winter in Vermont. So quite easy for me to do. I send them those photos and they can be reposting that on their social media too, which is key. When you do partner with an influencer, you want to ensure that you're also sharing the content on your channels. That's key. And we'll talk more about tips and tricks in just in a second. This was another one that I worked with Lawson's Finest in Vermont, right? There's more breweries per capita than any other state. So we get a lot of beer influencing, and Lawson's does quite a bit of this. So they had sent products, they had sent beer, and they had sent some payment to say, hey, show us some photos about how you love enjoying some of Vermont's finest in Lawson's. And this was a picture of one of my pups enjoying as well. And then here are some types of content that you can be asking for if you want to walk us through these, Colleen.
Sure. So I think, we've kind of mentioned this, but as you are thinking about deliverables when you're working with influencers, types of things that you can ask for blog posts. These could be posts on the influencer's blog, or it could be sort of guest posts that you use for your blog or your marketing channels, photography and video. It used to be primarily photos, but now as TikTok and Reels are gaining traction, I'm finding that a lot of brands that I work with are looking for video clips as well. So Reels and TikToks, and then of course, Instagram posts and stories. These are probably, I'd say, the most common types of deliverables that we're asked for. Other things could include like Instagram takeovers, which I've done, where I actually go on to a brand's Instagram page and post stories throughout the day. So there are sort of other things you can do as well, but I'd say these are sort of the main types of content that you would ask for when working with an influencer.
And these are just some more examples. These are Colleen, so she can walk you through these as well.
Yeah, these are social media examples. Have some from Brattleboro in here. Like I said, I did work with Rosalie last year to visit, had a chance to experience a bunch of the offerings. I had lunch with Greg. We went to Whetstone. We went to a bunch of the art galleries, the museums. So sort of taking photos, documenting my experience sort of in real time while I was there. And then also afterward, and then also showcasing, some of the hotel stays I've done and some of the food content as well.
And I think it's important to pause and say it's helpful attracting influencers from different areas. So a lot of my I'm based in Burlington, Vermont. A lot of my followers are from Vermont. And a lot of them haven't necessarily been to Brattleboro from Burlington, right? So I can influence them by showcasing, hey, this is a great town that's only a few hours away. Head down south and go experience it. For Colleen, a lot of her followers are in Massachusetts and throughout New England. So she has a wider pool of people to kind of influence in that regard. And it makes it so she's highlighting these unique locations and Whetstone, and people are saying, oh my gosh, I should go there. I wanted to go to Southern Vermont for a weekend trip. Now I know where I'm going. This looks really cool. So working with micro influencers from different locations is helpful because we all have different followers and we all have different endorsement capabilities with the followers that we do have.
And Erin and I work together sometimes on campaigns as well. Whether it's, social media or blog. And certainly we have some overlap with our followers, but we also have different pools as well. So it, I think, serves to sort of amplify that content when we're both promoting it and promoting our experiences to be reaching those different groups of people.
And to that end, we have pitched some brands to say, hey, between the two of us, on social media, we have almost 30,000 organic followers. And that's something that we should really pause and reflect on, is that a lot of influencers, and we'll talk more about the micro influencer versus the full-blown influencer, if you will, a lot of them pay for their followers. And when you pay for followers on Instagram, oftentimes they're bots. It could be anyone, anywhere in the world, and they just simply follow you, but they're not actually going to engage. So both of our following populations, Colleen has about 19,000, I have about 11,000 followers right now. They're completely organic. We've never paid for any promotions to actually get followers. And that's important because when you look at our engagement rates and our rates of influence, the people who care about our endorsements, it's much higher than just people from all over the country who may never come to Brattleboro, who may never come to Vermont in general. And right here, you can see I've done a lot of blog content over the years as well. And blogs are a really great way of partnering with local businesses. I did a blog years ago now with Whetstone, but they said, come on down, we'll buy you lunch. Great. I love that. And it's cool because when you're posting on your blog, there's a lot of search engine optimization. So we use good keywords. And when you search certain things, you'll get my blog posts that come up pretty high in Vermont search rankings. So when, you might be looking to visit a new town, for instance, and you're looking for reviews or you're looking for recommendations, if you can find an influencer's reviews where they aren't necessarily the brand talking about themselves, it lends itself to more authenticity. And then we thought that we would cover some tips for working with influencers. So I'll run through these. Colleen will address the next slide. So when you're working with micro influencers, and feel free to chime in here, it's really important for that reason that I just spoke of. We don't have paid followers, so you're going to get more engagement for people who can actually convert into people who are going to buy your product or go to your restaurant or stay at your inn or shop your art gallery, whatever that might be. And then you also want to ensure that the influencer's demographic really aligns with your own. So I told Colleen this story. We were staying up in Camden, Maine at the Camden Harbor Inn. This was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And they were comping us our stay. We were having a lovely dinner in their restaurant. And there was an influencer sitting at the table next to us. And she had, I want to say, 150,000 followers or so. But she was from New York City and she recently had moved from India. So I started looking at her following, and the majority of her followers were from India. So what's the chance that that person and her following, what's the chance that those people are actually going to come from India to Camden, Maine, a small town? It's not very likely, Whereas me, at the time I probably had, 8,000 or so followers. They're all from New England. They can take that recommendation and run with it and book their travel to Camden because they're only a few hours away. So you really want to pay attention to make sure that the demographic aligns with your own. Also, when you're working with an influencer, you want to agree on deliverables and timing. You want to ensure that you have that in writing, that it's very clear that I am delivering 1 static Instagram post and 3 Instagram stories in exchange for 1 night stay that's a weekday, for instance. You want to be very, very clear. You also want to assess your actual cost versus the cost of a promotion. So think about it this way. If you have a box of products that you want to send out to an influencer, sending your products, at your cost is not going to be that much money. So you want to think about, does it make sense for me to offer that room for the night when it's going to be sitting vacant? That's not a lost income for you in any way. And then you want to ensure too that you're aligning a campaign with your goals. So is your goal to get more website traffic? You might want to engage with someone for a blog post that's an SEO, search engine optimization rich blog post that has links back to your website. If your goal is Instagram followers, a giveaway is a really good idea. If your goal is product sales, you can put that product on the website with a website linking back to your website or on Instagram as well. And then you also really want to work with influencers who are authentic to your brand. It would not work well if you were working with influencers that didn't have the same heart, the same principles, the same morals as you. It would just create this interesting dynamic where it didn't look authentic and genuine. And that's really the whole premise here is, how are you getting those authentic third-party recommendations so it feels very natural? Anything to add here, Colleen?
Nope, I think you covered it. And so in terms of getting started, I think, we just laid out sort of a couple tips here, but, to go along with sort of what Erin said, conducting research to find influencers in your niche. A good way to do this is by using hashtags, looking at location tags, or also looking at, similar businesses to your own and seeing if they've worked with influencers or who's visited their location and posted about it. You really want to find influencers that are authentic and kind of work within your niche and fit your demographics. Like for me, I think we have a copy of my media kit on the next slide. But my audience is largely female and largely in sort of the 25 to 45 age range. So, it wouldn't make sense for someone who is trying to reach teenagers necessarily to work with me. Or if you're a, men's fly fishing brand, that's not my audience. It's women who are looking for recommendations. So making sure you're sort of finding the right people, I think, is really the first step. And then typically, if you're interested in working with an influencer, you can reach out via DM, which is a direct message on their Instagram page or through TikTok, or you can email them. Instagram does offer a button on the profile that allows you to put an email address. So it's just an easy way to reach out if you want to send something, if you want to send attachments or something that is maybe a little bit longer to sort of gauge interest. Another thing that I always recommend is to request a media kit, and I'll show an example of mine on the next slide. And there is a little bit here from that media kit as well, but you want to learn about them. What type of content did they post? Who have they worked with? What's their sample pricing? Will they work for trade? What types of offerings do they offer? So it's just sort of an easy way to get a little bit of a glimpse into the type of work they've done to make sure that it aligns with what you're looking for. And then, as Erin said, agree upon deliverables, figure out a promotion schedule. If it's a paid promotion, in most cases, there'll be a contract involved that you'll both want to sign, but make sure that expectations are sort of clearly outlined on both ends. I think one thing that is a little bit different working with social media influencers versus, say, a journalist is that you do have that ability to sort of negotiate. I think, with traditional media and traditional journalists, it's really up to them. Whereas when you're working with influencers, especially if it's paid, you really do have the opportunity to negotiate and make sure that you're getting, what you need in exchange, and they're getting what they want. You always want these types of partnerships to be mutually beneficial. And then, as Erin mentioned before, sharing the content on your own social channels to amplify reach is super helpful. I think now that there is that collaboration feature, that's something that I use a lot when working with brands, but just making sure that you're sharing what the influencers are sharing with your audience to showcase that, hey, this person came, they did all of these cool things, they loved what they were doing, here's what they posted. And then this is just a quick snapshot of the intro to my media kit. But again, I share sort of my stats, my demographics, how many followers I have, the fact that it is 75% women, the locations. The majority of my followers are from Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, Vermont, and then, the types of interests they have. So you want to make sure sort of demographically and psychographically that you're meeting the right people and reaching the right people through the influencers that you're working with.
So if you do have questions, if you need consulting, if you want to collaborate, we love collaborations, of course. These are our email addresses. You can also find us at Travel Like a Local VT and Travel Like a Local MA on Instagram. Joyce, what questions do you have for us? Or anyone else, what questions do you have for us?
Wow, I'm trying to absorb all of this. That was
a lot of content all at once, a crash course, if you will.
That really was. And thank you for it. That was brilliant. So I would like to see some stuff happening in the chat. Come on, people. You must have questions. You're all here for this. I was wondering, what if you are promoting a beer and it sucks?
That's a good question. So whenever I work with brands, I tell them that I reserve the right to not post them if I don't think I like the product, right? If I'm posting a product that I don't like, then I'm not being authentic. And I once got paid I was once invited to dinner at a restaurant, and the dinner, it was a new restaurant in Vermont. And quite frankly, it was bad. It was bad. And I said, you know what? I don't feel comfortable right now writing an endorsement because that's my word on the table. And I take my word very seriously. So I said, what I would love to do is send you the photos I took. You can utilize those. If you want to have me back for another occasion, I'm happy to come back. But right now, I don't feel comfortable representing your brand, given the quality that I would expect from you. And they were appreciative of that and the feedback. And often too, if I stay at an inn or a hotel and there's feedback, I often will give any kind of negative or constructive feedback to the proprietor or the business owner directly. So I'll say, my review is going to be authentic. If there were things I didn't love, I might mention, hey, that pillow is hard as a rock. But I will also give some behind the scenes recommendations, given we've stayed at a lot of inns and hotels. We've eaten at a lot of restaurants. We've tried just about every Vermont and New England product at this point. So we have a lot of that experience where we can also give tips and tricks. I stayed at, and this is just an example, I stayed at an inn in Stowe, Vermont, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And they were giving Dove chocolates on the pillows at night. And I said, what if you did Lake Champlain chocolates? Or even a more local chocolate, manufacturer on the pillows. That's going to actually resonate with your clientele who's coming to Vermont for the Vermont experience. Same thing when they have molten brown products in the bathroom. What about actually utilizing Vermont products to highlight them? So I tend to give those little tips, which is also a form of consulting, if you will, on how they can make their stay more special.
And I think another thing to mention, and this is something that Erin and I both do, is, making a point to never speak negatively about a brand, even if we have a bad experience. Like, we're not the type of influencers who would go on and say, ugh, I ate at this restaurant and it was horrible. I think for us, if we have a negative experience, we just wouldn't post about it. generally. And, like Erin said, provide some feedback and maybe give them another chance to, try again down the line. But I know that's sometimes something that, brands worry about. If they don't like it, are they going to say something negative? And, that's a conversation that certainly you can have in advance to sort of say, if you're reviewing something, obviously you want it to be authentic, but do you post negative reviews? And in that case, or simply look at their content and see when influencers are reviewing something, is it, overwhelmingly positive or at least, neutral? And if not, you may want to avoid working with them.
And we do always want to be real. Colleen and I stayed at a castle up in the Northeast Kingdom. I want to say it was last year or 2 years ago at this point. And I was in the shower. She comes running up and she's like, it's flooding. And literally we had this example in this beautiful castle in the Northeast Kingdom of water rushing through the ceiling. And in that case, I told that story, but I said, they were super quick to come and bring someone and get us situated. And hey, there were 3 more bathrooms that we could shower in. So we will be real and we'll be authentic. Mm-hmm. And when I started traveling,
we're not going to bash anyone.
No. And when I started Travel Like a Local Vermont, I said, I want to highlight the good. There's so much negativity out there. There's so much just garbage that I don't want to hear. I want to highlight the small local makers. I want to showcase the wins of all these, small businesses. So we really do focus on the positive.
Okay, we have questions. Yay. Could you speak more about finding an influencer in my niche? And I don't know what that niche is, but I think when you say find an influencer, what do? Google?
So, typically I would say to look on Instagram. So you can use hashtags. That's a great tool that you can use to search. The way that Instagram is working right now is that it's essentially acting as a search engine. So similar to, Google or other search engines that you might use. So you can search hashtags, you can search keywords. There are, a variety of ways that you can sort of use Instagram to search. So, again, I'm not sure what specific niche you work in, but say, you're a Thai restaurant, for example, you may want to look for, people who have an affinity for, spicy foods, or even just looking for bloggers who use hashtags like Vermont foodie or
Eat VT is another big one.
Yeah. Looking at, here in Boston, the Boston foodies hashtag is one that we use quite a bit. Also the tourism hashtags. So if you're looking for people who, come to your area, looking for people who use, visit MA or the Visit Boston hashtag, people that, use sort of those food related hashtags, or people, just using general sort of search terms. So, if you're a fly fishing business looking for people who, love fly fishing and post about that, and sort of using those specific terms, searching to see, who is using those terms and utilizing those on their feeds. And then also if there are other similar businesses, if there are other restaurants in town, you can take a look to see, or have they worked with influencers who's come and promoted their offerings, and sort of search that way to see who they're working with, who's coming to the destination, what are they promoting. All of those are sort of great ways to find influencers within a specific niche.
You can
one other tip. Go
ahead.
I'm a little confused only because I have never been on Instagram. So that just wipes me out of the picture, right?
Well, it's probably hard to find an influencer if you're not on Instagram. Yeah, one of the primary tools.
On Instagram. Rosalie, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just another way that I've have found it to be useful to find
your camera on.
I don't think so. There we go.
There you go.
One thing that I found to be really helpful is I go to the sites of some press sites, media sites on Instagram, and because influencers will tend to follow the kind of major media in their niche. And then once you find one influencer, chances are you'll find others, because influencers follow other influencers. I've had some good luck finding influencers through, once you find one or two, it becomes like a domino effect. It's a little bit of a hunt and peck, and you have to then check and see all the things that Erin and Colleen kind of flagged, things to look for, take some digging and some research. But that's been just as far as tips and tricks, I would recommend that.
Okay, I have another question here. Do you promote musicians and or original recorded music?
We sure do. So I actually am a band manager as well for a Vermont band. And I post regularly about their gigs.
Is there anything you don't do?
I do a lot. Someone once told me, and this was probably when I was in my early 20s, that you can't make a good living in Vermont only doing one thing. And I took that to heart.
Moonlight,
so I think I have 12 or so.
Yeah, we all have 3 jobs.
There you go. I think I have like 12 or so sources of income in Vermont, but one of them is managing a band, and I promote their stuff all the time. They recently did a Elton John and Queen tribute in Middlebury that I went down there, took footage from, and promoted as well in stories. And, we'll do some behind the scenes fun with them too, but we promote anything and everything.
And oh, go ahead, Colleen.
No, I was just going to say, when I was in Brattleboro, one of the first things that I did was visit the Stone Church for a performance. And so that was something that was really fun to promote as a venue, but also the musician who was playing there. And so it's always fun to have the opportunity to experience and promote things like that.
Yeah, and just a quick story there. So in addition to your visit, we had a writer who experienced the Stone Church on a visit and was intending to do actually a story on Nalaka, but because she got a chance to see it, it ended up in a top 10 USA Today 10 best list of New England live music venues. And so it was an opportunity for them to, really pump that up. And then in March, they were putting on a month, as some of you probably are aware, they put on a month-long music series featuring women in music and women fronting bands. And through a different client relationship that I have, a women's equity in music client that was co-founded by Linda Perry from Four Non Blondes, was able to take the content from Stone Church, pushing that series, and have them share it on her page because the messages were aligned. So they got this sort of sidebar influencer support opportunity through just, by chance of these 2 aligned clients that I was able to kind of put together. So lots of different ways to find these opportunities.
That's a great answer. And that should make him feel very, very happy. You'll probably be hearing from him soon. So can we have some more questions, please?
Maybe we covered everything.
I think you exhaustively covered everything.
That's what we typically do. A lot of hard-hitting information all at once. And I will say, going back to finding influencers in Vermont, at least, you can search #VermontBlogger. And that's a really good way of finding people. Same thing with #Vermonter, #Vermont by Vermonters, any of those things. There aren't a ton of influencers in Vermont, but those of us who do it, we have pretty good followings and tend to cover the whole state.
Okay, since we don't have any more questions, I'm going to speak a little. That what bothers me about, I guess, the word influencer is that I don't like to be influenced, and I like to know who is doing what influencing, if they are doing any. And I have been an opinion writer and a journalist, so I know a little bit about how you do it. Is if you're paid to promote something, do your followers know that?
They sure do.
If you are being paid by some restaurant and you say, this is a great restaurant, but there's another great restaurant right next to it that's even better maybe, and they're not paying you, you're not going to promote that restaurant. You're going to promote the less good one. It seems, is there an ethical part of this?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, on Instagram, if you have branded content, if you are engaging with a brand that's paying you, you have to disclose that it's an ad or it's a paid promotion.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, there's something
And
that
I
comes
think,
up
isn't it the
that
same with Facebook? You have to say,
Mhm.
yeah, it
Facebook
says
puts it on there as well.
it's a paid
Yeah.
engagement essentially. So your followers know. But here's the thing, Joyce. If I came to you and you've been following me, you learned to trust me, you said, hey, our interests align. We both love that same coffee shop or that same beer. And I said, Joyce, you have to go try this new coffee shop and have that maple latte. Because we almost seem like friends and we're networking and we're acquaintances, you trust me. So again, we're not going to necessarily write about something that's not good. And with that said, I think too, oftentimes there are non-competes in paid contracts, but they're for a finite period of time. So when I influence with Dunkin', I have something in my contract that says I can't write about McDonald's or Cumberland Farms or Starbucks for a period of 1 month or whatever else. I probably wouldn't promote those things anyway. I choose to partner with Dunkin' because they do a lot for the state of Vermont. They do a lot for New England. They do a lot with charities and giving back. But I'm not going to go out and feature McDonald's because it doesn't fit with my brand. So any other thoughts on that, Colleen, and how you would address the morality issue there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's sort of similar. The example that you gave, Joyce, about, eating at a restaurant, we haven't eaten at every restaurant, in a given place. We can only promote, our specific experience. So there may be times that there's a better restaurant, next door. We may not always know that, but I think, for us, just sort of giving our authentic opinion on something is what our followers are looking for. And, it's not always saying this is, the best place ever, but saying, hey, their chicken wings were phenomenal, or, pointing out one or two things that sort of set them apart that are differentiators. So it's about finding things within the places that we visit that we really enjoy, that we think are interesting, that we think our followers would love to learn about, and promoting those things.
I think I would trust the two of you implicitly, but I would not trust a Kardashian, for example. So,
and I think that's why, working with people like us who have built authentic and genuine community is so important. I think when people think of influencers, and in some cases, influencer is kind of a dirty word, right? You think of someone who is, taking advantage of brands, or someone who, wants to go to a resort and snaps one photo of themselves, by the pool, and then goes and drinks pina coladas all day. And, that's not what this is. I think influencers that take their work seriously, when we go on these trips, it's work. We're taking photography, we're meeting with people, we're experiencing all different types of things. We're not just saying, oh, I want a free hotel stay, and, I'm going to go snap one photo and, then go take a nap. That's not really how it works. So you want to find people who sort of have that same ethos and understand that, there is an objective. And I think we have a responsibility, to our audiences to make sure that we are providing content that is useful and that they can trust.
Yeah, I think what we're really talking about is not the celebrity endorsement.
Carolyn.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't think they'll let me do it. They'll have to do it. So it's not really the celebrity influencer we're talking about. And that was kind of this new sort of more micro influencer is a growing area that, it started off maybe with celebrities, but now it's grown into where you actually have a career in doing this. And you do want to be careful about what you do, because otherwise no one's going to hire you or no one's going to contact you. They have to know that you're genuine and that you do have this followers. So I think that's, it's a different way of looking at influencers.
And I will say to that point, Lynn, Colleen and I don't actually make much income from this.
I was going to ask you
I
about
think I
that.
lose money actually.
She probably does. She's every weekend traveling somewhere. I will say that for me, it was a means. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the writing aspect of it. I am a realtor, so I get a lot of clients through it as well. That's really how I utilize, it to fund my life. But I think both of us typically reinvest the money that we do make. So I've had some quote unquote trolls before pop onto my Dunkin' post and say, how dare you? There are local businesses that you should be, supporting. And I often say, well, there are locals employed at these Dunkins, and I'm taking that $400 or whatever I get, and I'm going to spend that money locally. So we don't actually necessarily earn money from it. It is more of a service. And we've talked about different ways that we can monetize it as it grows or whatever else. But for us right now, we do it because we enjoy it. And I think that's a point of difference as well from the influencers who post some product and make $1 million and then, never think about it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be useful down the line to use a different word than influencers.
Some people say content creators now. I've been finding that that's becoming a little more common, because you are creating content, whether it's a blog post, whether it's social posts, photography or videography. It's really about the content that you're putting out. So I actually prefer the term content creator to the term influencer.
Thank you for saying that. Okay, we have nobody wants to ask these brilliant women some questions.
Yeah, I don't believe it. Come on, Peachy.
This is an opportunity. Come on.
Yeah. Are you guys there?
There are 18 people watching us, so 16, sorry. Us too.
Where are you? Maybe they're just overwhelmed.
Let's get one more question and then we'll pack it in. How do you know if your effort is successful?
Oh boy.
Or how would the people who hire you, I guess, know?
Yeah. So often they'll know if they're successful if they're getting more followers. I have a lot of people who will go to an inn or whatever else and say, oh, Travel Like a Local told me I had to come. And they'll circle back with me and say, yes. And if they get even one person who's coming to their inn or restaurant or whatever else, and then that person has a good experience and they tell a friend, it's word of mouth. Word of mouth marketing is the best that you can ever get. So for us, it's very much, if we get a couple of people to actually go and try that product or that new experience, that's beneficial. And I saw it in the chat, there was a question about artificial intelligence, AI. And I will say that it hasn't necessarily taken over the influencer space quite yet, although I know some bloggers are starting to use things like ChatGPT and Bard from Google to start to write their blog posts a bit. I've looked into it and done some tests. I did one recently and I said, write me a blog post that's 800 words on 5 things to do in the spring in Vermont. And it wouldn't replace necessarily those local recommendations, but it did give us kind of a generic start, if you will. So if I see AI coming into play, it could be helping content writers create more content more quickly. But if it is going to be authentic, we still need to add in those local recommendations and the personalization, or anyone could create that content.
So it's almost like a copywriting function, and then you serve as the editor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to do a MMP event on AI coming up soon, because it's just moving so fast.
Great for headshots if you need them. For $17, you can get some beautiful headshots. It won't look anything like you, but it'll be great for the press.
Great. Yeah.
Okay, we have another one. How do you get more people to react to your posts? If there are 1,200 followers and about 20 to 50 follow it, how do you upgrade that?
So, I mean, there's a couple ways. I think, engagement is one of those things that I sort of look at as a two-way street. There has to be sort of an output and an input. So the more active that you are on the platform, the more engagement you're going to receive. So, that could be things like engaging with other people's posts, spending some time, before you post or after you post, engaging with your followers or other sort of similar accounts is sort of one way to do it. Another way is by making sure that you're responding to comments. There are a lot of times that I see I'll see a post, from a brand that maybe has, 10 comments or questions, and there's no response. So, I think that's a very easy way to get people to engage, is to respond to their comments or their questions. If they comment, you can ask them a question, start a conversation. The more engagement and activity Instagram sees on a post, the more it's going to be apt to share it with more people. Hashtags, I think, are a really important tool as well. And, I know that Instagram has recommended sort of cutting back on the number of hashtags you use, but it's a great way for people to find you and to follow you. And I think using the right hashtags is a really good way to get your post in front of more people. So I think, by making sure that you're active on the platform, that you're engaging with other brands, liking, commenting, is a way to do it. And then, just making sure that you're being responsive and using hashtags, and also just putting out quality content that people are interested in.
There's another question, Joyce.
Yes, I know that, Lynn. I was just about to
Okay.
recite it.
Okay.
Here we go. How to engage with an influencer without giveaways or barter.
Well, you have to think it from
You guys
our
are for
perspective.
sale, huh?
You have to think it from our perspective. I go to a lot of restaurants, I go a lot of places, and I just promote them for free because I like it. But at the end of the day, if it's not a product or a service or something that I've experienced, I'm probably not going to know about it unless someone pings me and says, hey, try my product. So I would say there has to be kind of skin in the game both ways for it to work. It's a true partnership. It's a collaboration. We don't have all day long and all the resources in the world. I wish we did, because we would just be full-time doing this, going around highlighting things and eating well and staying in great places, right? But there has to be kind of a two-way street and the collaboration to make it work. So I think it might be hard to partner with an influencer if you're not willing to give and it's all take. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree with that. I think it has to be mutually beneficial. So I know, for me, I was kind of joking before that I lose money doing this, but I actually do. I definitely spend way more money on, on the promotions and things that I do because I enjoy it. But I think if a brand is looking to, work with me or wants my endorsement, it has to be mutually beneficial. So there has to be something in it, for the influencer. So if there's no payment, if there's no, sort of barter or giveaway, I mean, I think, you have to think about what else you could potentially offer that they would be looking for. If there's services or, something like that. But yeah, I think there has to be some kind of give on both ends, or it's not going to be successful.
Okay, the person who asked that question runs an art gallery, so they're not going to give you a painting. What's the quid pro quo here?
So we've actually featured quite a few art galleries in the past, and with me, it could be, somebody is saying, hey, we're going to give you a $50 gift card, or we're going to do, an event in the art gallery, and will you come and we'll collaborate and both promote it on our social media. I think that you could do those things, but typically, go ahead, Call.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I feel like probably, by offering, an invitation to an opening, or, if it's a new, exhibition that's opening, or maybe it's something, a chance to do like a Q&A with the artist, or get some type of behind the scenes experience. It doesn't have to be, necessarily giving away a painting or a work of art, but just something that we wouldn't normally have access to. So maybe it's, you could have someone come to the gallery and check it out, and then go have a drink and, discuss it. I mean, I think there are, different things that you can do and different ways that you can get people interested, but certainly, inviting someone for like a behind the scenes or a Q&A or a first look at something, a chance to promote something really cool that's happening before other people have the opportunity to. I think those types of experiences are valuable as well.
Great.
Maybe
I think we're going to pack it in because we are almost out of time, and Lynn's probably going to shill for Vermont Public Media.
I certainly am. I was just going to say, but maybe you guys could connect with Rosalie, and Rosalie can get a room stay for you to come to the art gallery to do whatever, you know what I
There
mean?
you go.
It all
You want to
works
stay at the
together.
inn at Putney Road. That's our next stay down there. We're
It
eyeing
all
it.
works
I'll
together.
be in
Jim.
touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very, very much, ladies and Greg. It was really interesting. And Lynn, take it away.
Okay, well, basically, I'm just going to thank everyone for coming. I think it was a terrific opportunity to learn more about how to promote your businesses. And I am going to mention again that this is put on by Vermont Independent Media, especially for the Media Mentoring Program project, which is needing money, of course, so we can keep going. So if anybody has $1 or $5, we're happy to accept. And you can donate right at our website at news@commonsnews.org. And I hope everyone enjoyed the event, got a lot out of it, and we're looking forward to the next one, which will come up in another month. Thank you, Joyce. Thank everybody.